Okay, topic of today's tune is every so often we sit down and review the age-old question, how do you learn a tune? And so I thought we would revisit this topic again together. And many of us are in the process of learning some tunes for the upcoming cruise Journey North that we're doing with Jack Lee. And one of the tunes everybody has to learn for the cruise. If you don't learn it before you get on the ship, that would be very bad. No, it wouldn't be that bad. But we're supposed to learn Cruise Journey North. It's one of the tunes that we're going to play a lot. Written by Jack Lee and one or two bars by yours truly. That's one of the tunes we're going to be playing a lot during the week. And because a lot of us are learning it, some of us are possibly even a little bit stressed out about it. I thought we would use that as the tune that we are going to learn here. Let me throw it out to you in usual form. How do you learn a tune? Hit me in the chat. Wow, I'm surprised. Two people with exactly what I would say is step one came out first and foremost. Good job. Cool, cool. I like, by the way, some of this stuff is definitely part of the process. Tune building method, says Hillary. 1 bar at a time, says Tony. 2-bar phrases, says David. These are all possibly good options. Cool, but I like what a lot of folks have said here already, and it's because we talk about this often. But for me, learning a tune happens in 4 steps, I think. Maybe even more, but today we're going to go with 4. Okay, and the first of the 4 steps is that the best way to learn a tune is to already know the tune, right? That's the best way to learn a tune, right? Now, that might not be the case here. We might not be familiar with Cruise Journey North at all, okay? But step 1 of learning the tune is we'd like to make that the case. So we call it immersion in the sense that what we want to do is we want to get familiar with the tune somehow. We want to hang out with it, spend time with it. For those of us who are interested in learning Cruise Journey North, and even if you're not, grab a piece of paper and a pencil. And the first thing I want you to write down, go ahead, let's do this. I want you to write down what you're going to do to listen to this tune regularly over the next couple of weeks. So maybe, one example could be, I am going to load Jack Lee's recording on my iPad. Just write that down. Another one would be, I don't know, what's another one? What's another way you could do it? I'm going to record Jack Lee's MP3 onto my favorite cassette. Now, it's interesting, people should mention this, because Jack released all the music to us that we're going to be playing on the cruise, and I am certain he would not mind if I'm just going to drop it right here in the Zoom chat, so everyone can have a copy of the MP3. There it is. Not a big file. That's Jack Lee playing the tune. Everyone has a copy of that. If you needed to send me to send it through the Discord or something later, I could do that too. But we happen to have the recording. Man, that's such a blessing, right? Sometimes you got a new tune and there's no great recordings around. But in this case, we do have a good one. Cool. Janet's going to put it on the phone, listen in the car, and when walking. I love that. When I'm learning Inverary stuff, I'll regularly put a playlist together of the stuff I'm trying to learn. And yeah, I do it when I'm doing the dishes, when I'm folding the laundry. This would be a good opportunity to listen through the medley again. It's a lot easier to learn a wild and crazy medley if I already know the medley. People got, Jimmy, stop direct messaging me. It's distracting me, the big red letters. Jimmy's going to listen to it as he gets lost on the Bliss. Now, if you go on the Norwegian Bliss and you haven't learned the tune yet, that's going to be probably too short of a period of time. But does everybody understand? If the Star Spangled Banner was more playable on the pipes, let's say it was playable on the pipes, would it take you longer to learn than Cruise Journey North? It would not. It would take you much shorter to learn. We all know this. And why is it? It's because you already know the Star Spangled Banner if you're an American. And then same would go for, Canada, if you're Canadian, or is it God Save the Queen or something? If you're from the UK, King now, maybe, but there you go. It would not be it wouldn't take you longer because you already know the tune. So that's really step one here. All right. Now, if you could do nothing else but listen to Cruise Journey North several times a day before the cruise departs in a couple of weeks, I would take that option. That's a really good option. Then you'll know the tune, right? You'll be humming it, you'll be whistling it, you'll be singing it. Then all that's left to do is learn the tune, which is really quite easy. Once you know it, it's really quite easy. Listen to it until you can sing it, says Kathy. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe you can sing pieces of it or something like that. Yeah, and then, by the way, John, that's a great point. That's exactly why we put the Christmas songs and the kids' songs in our beginner's tutor, is because most people already know those tunes, right? So now we get to skip that part. Yeah, exactly. But that's the number one most important thing, is to know how the tune goes. And in this case, we have a great example. By the way, you could take Jack's MP3, and it's possible, I'm not going to go into it today, but it's possible to slow down that recording. If you want to listen to it more slowly, it's possible to speed it up. If Jack's playing too slow for you, you could do anything that you want. It's also another one I really like, especially when we get more into learning the tunes. It's also possible to loop sections of it. That's one of my favorite things to do. If it's also possible to take it into a program like Audacity, and you can highlight the section of the music that you want. And by the way, maybe it's already at half speed. Now you highlight the section that you want, and then you press the loop button, and then it will just loop through that section over and over endlessly for you. I use that tool all the time. I won't go into it today in the interest of time, but just Google it. How do I loop something in Audacity? I do that all the time, by the way, telling the truth. So when there is that tune in the medley that I'm trying to learn for Inverary, and there's always that one part that you're having trouble with, right? I just put it on repeat, and I maybe even slow the tempo down a little bit, and then I just go through it. And when everything's repeating easily for you, usually by the 15th or 16th repeat, I got the tune's going really well. John uses an app called Fourscore on your, is it on your iPad, John? Cool. Yeah. It changes pitch, and you can loop, etc., and you match your chanter, and you can match your chanter to the full pipes. Awesome. That sounds cool, John. I actually want to check that out. But yeah, you can, I guess I'm just old. I still use the computer and the Audacity for that kind of thing. But there you go. They have a fancy app for it as well. Very cool. Good tip. All right. Let's have a listen to the tune, shall we? What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my desktop with the sound. Share. All right. And then it takes me a second to refangle my Zoom here. Okay. Participants, chat. By the way, Sally asked a good question. If there's no good recording available, what should you do? Should you try to make a recording yourself with the music and the metronome? What do you guys think? If you're a good enough player that you can make a really good quality recording with you watching the music, and if you can get through the tune and you can play it fairly well by sight, then this is a good option. But most of us are not in that situation, right? Most of us are not in the situation where if we have to, we can sight read through a tune and lay down a recording. So that gets pretty tricky, doesn't it? Maybe you could ask an expert piper if you can buy them a couple of those fancy craft beers they like in exchange for quickly recording the tune for you. Maybe that's an option. What other creative options might there be? I'm not quite sure. And sometimes we're left in the dark, and we are indeed going to have to try to learn the tune, even though we don't know it yet. Luckily, we're not in that situation here. Yeah, there you go. Rusty says, ask your teacher. Yeah, that if you have that option, that's a good one. Brett says a good cup of coffee. I don't know. I don't know if a good cup of coffee is going to do it. I might need a gift certificate, Brett. But, ooh, sushi, Tom. There you go. Sushi will definitely do it, especially given the current inflationary environment. Does anyone still use ABC notation? That's a good question. I never did. I never got into it. But anyway, here, let's have a listen. Here's Cruise Journey North. And by the way, I have the music here as well. We can follow along. Let's see. of a cool tune, right? Not bad. I think I wrote these 6 beats. I think that's what I wrote. No, I'm just kidding. So Jack had a sketch and then we sent it back and forth a few times. Good tune, right? Yeah, no problem. So that's the Cruise Journey North. Now, everybody got it? Remember how it goes? I don't know about you, but that's not going to be enough, right? So that's why we want to get that MP3 on our playlist, and we want to be doing it regularly. Okay, raise your hand if you were able to follow along with the music while the MP3 was playing in the video. Yeah, cool. And by the way, feel no shame if you weren't able to. It all depends on where you are in the learning process. It depends how comfortable you are sight reading and so on. So I lost my train of thought. What was it? Yes. So if you were able to follow along with the music, that's cool. I spend a lot of time when I'm trying to learn a new tune, listening to the recording and following along with the music. It would be similar to, following along with the map when you go on a road trip, right? You don't have to, but it's good because the music is what I'm going to be using to learn the tune and to piece together all the little details. So the more I can follow along with the music, I think the easier the learning process is going to be. So when I do get a chance, I'm listening to the recording and I'm following along with the music. No big deal, right? Want to listen to it one more time? Let's listen to it one more time. Here we go. By the way, do I have the ability to... let's listen to it one more time at half speed. This is just the experimental. And then I'll also follow along with the music again as we go. Here we go. By the way, listening along at half speed, it wasn't really recorded this way, so it's going to sound a little bit awkward. But this is just an example of how the being able to change the speed may or may not help us. All right, that's a little too painful. Going back to regular speed. Okay, good. Everybody happy with that? All right, and then we can put that on the playlist. You can even put the playlist on shuffle. It doesn't really matter, but we just want to start to integrate this tune into our daily life. Cool. So that's step 1 of learning a tune. Step 1 is fill in the blank. Step 1 is the blank important step. Step 1 is the blank important step. Most, somewhat, least. This immersion step is the blank important. Fill in the blank. Yes, exactly. It's the most important step, right? So the people in the videos, I see practicing the embellishment of the tune at the moment, right? Be careful. Embellishment is the least important step. Just learning the tune and getting familiar with it is the most important step. Okay. David says, I think he might just be trying to be as irreverent as possible, but he says, or no, Ben rather, all the steps are the most important. I disagree strongly with that, right? I disagree strongly. There are some aspects of playing a tune that are way more important than others. Speaking of which, what is the second step now of learning a tune? Now we've immersed ourselves, we can whistle the tune, we catch ourselves humming it even when we weren't intending to. Right now, what's the next step? Cool. And the next step is the rhythm step. Okay, we want to make sure that we are clear on the rhythm of the tune. By the way, we can use Jack Lee's recording as a really great tool in this case. Okay, we could even slow it down a little bit if we want to, but we can clap the rhythm along with the tune. Okay, now today we're not going to go into the rhythmic warm-up today. We're not going to go into the dojo method of rhythming today. It doesn't matter how you get there, but the next step is to get clear on the rhythm. Okay, what's the rhythm of this tune? Good question. I'll give you a couple of tips. First of all, I do recommend a rhythmic warm-up, right? Some kind of warm-up where you get a little bit of warm-up with all of the key figures that you might see in a tune of the type that you're trying to learn. So if you're learning a jig, do a little warm-up that includes some jig rhythms. Get comfortable with the groove and the feel and the rhythmic figures of the tune. Okay, now here's another little tip, and I'm going to see if I can pull it off here during class today. Here's another little tip. When we are in the rhythm phase and the sight reading phase and trying to learn things, and we have a 4/4, can anyone predict what my trick is going to be? I'm going to change the time signature from 4/4 to 2/4, and just cross your fingers. Let's see if this works. Okay, good. And by the way, you could do this by hand by just drawing a bar line down the middle of each bar. Okay, now it looks like I have to reset all of these. That's fine though. Now, why would I do such a wild and crazy thing, everyone? Anybody know? I just find it's way easier to count to 2 than to count to 4. Right? It's that simple. When I'm doing my rhythm, as if you hang out at the dojo, is that I like to count the groove as I'm playing, or I like to feel the groove and count the groove as I'm playing. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and. Doing that is a lot easier than counting to 4. And then another thing, in my opinion, that's a lot easier, is it allows me to easily figure out what chunks I might work with during the tune building process, right? So for example, my first chunk is going to be the first bar followed by the landing note on the high A, right? Making sense? And then my next one is going to be something like that. Just a couple of little tips here. Now, the most important tip is this. When I get a new tune and I'm really serious about learning it, okay? Someone mentioned handwriting earlier. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take the tune and I'm going to handwrite it myself. But don't do anything yet. I'm going to handwrite it with 3 layers to every staff. Okay? And the first thing I'm going to do, so at the end of the day, it's going to look like this, 3 layers to every staff. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write the rhythms only of the tune. So today I'm using computer software, but listen closely. It's only because computer software is easier to use when I'm on Zoom to show you guys stuff. I highly recommend writing things out with an actual piece of paper and a pencil. If you go to Google, you can print out empty staff music paper using your printer. And then sometimes you can even set up 3 bracket systems like this, or 3 staff systems like we'll have here. You can actually print it off. And that's what I would use. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the rhythm only of the tune. Can everybody see how I got this? All I did is I take out all the embellishments and grace notes, take them all out, and then I put every note on the same line. I picked C. You could put it on D line or E line or A, whatever line you want, but I'm going to put every note on the same line, so there's no melody anymore, and now we just have the monotone rhythm. Thumbs up if that makes sense. All right, and then you'll see I use my little 2/4 trick here. You don't have to do that. It's totally up to you. Okay, but for me, that gives me these nice little bite-sized chunks. Okay, now it all depends how advanced you are with rhythm. Okay, if you've been doing rhythm for 35 years, like me, right? Close to 30, not maybe 32. If you've been doing rhythm for 32 years like me, then you'll be able to do the entire part all at one time, just going through the rhythm. but you might not have 35 years experience. So let's just do a little bit of rhythm here together. I want to turn my original sound on, I think. Okay. And then I'm going to turn my metronome on. What should we set the tempo to? I don't know. Dee, dum, bum, bum, bum. How about I set the metronome to 100? Okay, but this will be my double time tempo. No, 100's too fast. Can you guys hear that metronome clicking away fairly well? Okay. At the moment, it's at 85. Okay, now, just another little learning tip that you don't have to use. But I never look at the pickup note when I'm learning the tune. I never look at it. Because what I find is I spend so long trying to figure out how that damn pickup note works that I could have learned the entire first part in that time. Okay, so we're going to look at the first bar. Let's clap the rhythm together. What I like to do is I like to say the groove with my mouth as I'm clapping. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a... You don't have to do that. You can, as long as you get to the right rhythm at the end of the day, you could use any method you wanted. Okay, and by the way, I'm going to slow down the tempo a little bit more. I'm going to go to 80. Okay, let's try the first chunk together. My first chunk is going to be the first bar with a landing zone. First bar plus landing zone it's always the chunk that I'm going to grab. So the first one goes like this. Ready? And a go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. Like that. That's our first chunk. Let's try it together. See how that chunk is bite-sized and manageable? That's the key. Ready? And a go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. Making sense? Good. All right, let's do the next chunk. The next chunk looks very similar to the first chunk. Ready? And a go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. Can you see how the second rhythm is slightly different, but it still fits the groove, right? Same thing. And a go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. Making sense so far? And by the way, if it doesn't, oh, my music score is glitching out. And if it doesn't make sense, it's a great indicator that this is what you should work on at the moment, right? Should we be working on the 2 D throws that are in this bar? No, we shouldn't, right? Because we're not clear on the rhythm yet. And so this process really helps us prioritize what's important. Okay, let's do these 2 bars put together. Ready? And a go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. Making sense? All right, clap that rhythm again for me. I'm going to play the melody of the tune. Let's see if it fits. Ready? And a go. E and. How'd we do? Did it fit? Okay. Let's try it one more time. Ready? And a go. E and. Cool. Did it fit? No, it did not fit, right? I made a small mistake there. Now, let's pretend that was you playing the tune. I made a small mistake. I played this rhythm round instead of dot cut. But this is just a point that I wanted to make. If you were learning this tune on your own, okay, and you weren't clear on the rhythm, how would you know whether or not that was a mistake? Because it was a rhythmic mistake. I played all the notes and all the embellishments, but the rhythm was wrong. If we're not clear on the rhythm first, later when we're trying to play the tune with our fingers, we're not going to have an awareness of whether or not we're using the right timing. Okay? And then that could take a long time before you realize what's wrong. And what's the problem with that? If we've been playing the tune for quite a long time with our fingers wrongly, then what does that mean? It means we developed a bad habit. So now we have to spend time reversing the habit. And then we have to spend time ingraining the good habit again. So what did that do? right? That took a very small mistake and turned it into a giant problem because we learned the tune with the wrong order and with the wrong set of priorities. Is that making sense to everybody? So this rhythm thing, I get it. I'm excited. I'm antsy. I want to learn the tune. I got you. Making total sense to me. I am not the king of patience by any means, but this is worth it. You know what I mean? Because it's going to pay off. Because in the future, I want to make as few mistakes as possible when the fingers come in. Okay, let's do the next rhythm segment in a 2-bar chunk. Why do I feel like a 2-bar chunk is the way to go here? It's because the 1 bar is just one note for the entire bar. We'll try and abbreviate the process ever so slightly. Let's try it together. Rhythm only, ready, and go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. And don't forget that landing note at the very end. Let's try that together. Ready, and go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. Okay? Making sense? Cool. And then we can do the whole 2-bar phrase. Is that what someone said earlier? Now we've worked our way up to a 2-bar phrase. Let's try it. Rhythm only and ready, go. 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. Cool? Making sense? Okay, at this point of the learning process, there's 2 main forks we could take. Does anyone know where I'm going with this? We got a decision, and it's up to you. It's totally up to you which way you want to go. We could finish the first part rhythm. Okay? I would stress that sometimes that's appropriate because the rhythm of each phrase is really similar a lot of the time. It's really repetitive, and you're like, oh, like there's not much left to do here. I think I got this. Okay? But then sometimes, maybe not. What's the other fork that we could take? Now that we have a 2-bar phrase of rhythm, we can start to play the melody now, right? Like a 2-bar phrase is a nice chunk. So now we could go vertical instead of continuing with the rhythm, right? Let's do that option today, just because in the interest of time, I want to make sure that I've illustrated things as clearly as I can at the point where we would have run out of time. So the next thing we would want to do is we want to play the melody. Are we going to play this line when we learn the melody? Jane is shaking her head. Why are you shaking your head? And you could. A lot of pipers do. Good. Janet says simplify it. And it's not that, sometimes the word simplify scares people. We're not going to simplify it. We're going to build the minimally viable structure first. Okay? Think about when you build a house. When you build a house, do you build everything, put in the crown molding and the siding all at once? No. What would you do? For the first thing you would do, like you could think maybe the rhythm is us building the foundation of the house. So we've already done that. But then once the foundation is up, what would you do next? I think, and I'm not an expert along these lines, but I think you would proceed to build a minimally viable structure next. Otherwise known as framing it. There you go, Jane. Yeah, so we're going to frame the house next. Minimally viable. We got to make sure that we got 4 walls and then maybe the roof, maybe rain generally staying out of the area. I don't know. Okay. But that's what we're doing here. We don't want to go fully embellished. Just wait. The embellishments can be so easy if we put up the basic structure first and we get clear on it first. That's what we're going to do here. Here's my middle line of my staff. Okay. And I want you to write it out by hand and not try and figure out a computer solution. A lot of times, by the time we figured out our computer solution, we could have already written it out by hand and gotten 4 hours of practice in, right? So just do it by hand. It's fine. You could even draw out the staff lines by hand. It's not going to be that bad. Okay? And here's the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the melody from above and we're going to copy all the notes and rhythms down. No grace notes or embellishments yet. Can everybody see that's what I have here? Okay? In my opinion, the next step is very important. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. So listen closely. Okay. The next step, very important. Does anybody know what the next step is? Now that I've written out the notes with no grace notes or embellishments, what is the next step? Very important next step, in my opinion. This is like the make or break moment. I'm just giving you a second for someone to get some glory points. Nope, nope, nope. Rick, not bad. Tom, not good. What we got? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding, Tom. You did fine. Okay, here's the next step. Very important. Which is get rid of the original line. Remove it from view. It's going to come back. Don't worry. Don't panic. It's going to come back. But what I want to do with my melody is I want to give it some basic grace notes. But one mistake we often make is that we let all the embellishments and stuff from the line above, they encourage us to make bad basic grace noting decisions. Now we go back to what Rick said. Now that the main line is gone, I don't want it to influence any decisions. What we're trying to do is build a minimally viable structure here. So, Rick, say what you said again. He said G grace notes go on the beats. I agree with Rick here. Okay, what we're going to do is let's start by putting G grace notes in on the beats. Okay, so there's a beat. How do you know where the beats are? It's usually 99 times out of 100. It's where the note group begins. Now, can I put a G grace note on a high A? No, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So a high A is one of those notes where we're just going to skip it. Can I put a G grace note on this D? Usually, yes, but right now, no, because we're coming from high A. So we're going to skip that. What about the high G? Can I put a G grace note on the high G? No, but what would I do instead here? That's right. In the high G, we can't play a G grace note, so we put in the thumb. Okay, so that's the basic algorithm for these G grace notes. And you would be doing this by hand. This part would actually be faster. G grace note on the E. What else could you do here? I like an E strike there. It just feels, in my mind, it just seems natural. So I'm just going to go crazy, you guys. Just going to go with the E strike. It just feels right. But if you didn't realize that would feel right, would a G grace note work? Of course it would. Absolutely. It's if you're going to use nails or screws when you build your house. Does it really matter? Not really. Either one could work. Okay? And so on. Everybody see what I've done here? I'm not going to do the whole thing in the interest of time. Okay, can everybody see what I've done here? Okay, cool. Now, we know the rhythm of the 2-bar phrase. All right, and here's what I would do. You don't have to do this. You could do whatever you want. What I would do is I would go back and forth between the rhythm and playing the basic melody of the tune. All right, let me illustrate how that might look. So just watch me as I learn. Okay, so I'm not gonna clap anymore because I want the chanter really close by. I'm gonna take the chanter. Can you guys hear me tapping on my desk? Okay, and I'm gonna tap the rhythm again. Here I go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1. I think I'm gonna stop with 1 bar for now because I'm not confident that I could get full 2 bars melody wise. But I've done that. Now let's switch to my chanter. And now I'm going to go like this. Ready, go. Now I happen to be an amazing sight reader. So that went perfectly well. Is it realistic for it to go perfectly well for you the first time? Maybe not. Okay, so don't worry about it. Worry about wiggling your fingers in the correct rhythm. And then as you iterate, correct the notes as best as you can. All right, now you'll know if you make a wrong note. How will you know if you make a wrong note? It's not the music that's going to tell you. I mean, it will. But the thing that's really going to tell you is, remember that immersion we did. You know the first phrase already, and you'll be able to compare what you're doing to how you know the tune should go. All right, and you'll be able to catch those wrong notes. Okay, let's work on the first bar together. Grab the practice chanter in your dominant hand and get ready to tap. Ready? And a rhythm, go. 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. Cool. I'm good on my rhythm. Here we go. Ready and play. Go. Jane, you have to put the chanter in your mouth and blow on it in order for it to work. Okay, let's try it again. Ready? We're going to tap the rhythm again. Ready? And go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, and 2, and chanter. Go. Cool. And let's add in, okay, next time, let's add in the full 2 bars. Okay, I feel good about the first bar. Let's add in the second bar. And remember, it's actually more bars the way we're looking at it because we split them into 2/4. You don't have to do that. You can keep it at 4/4. It's totally up to you. Okay, let's tap the rhythm of the 2 bars. Ready? And go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a landing note. Don't forget that landing note at the very end. Okay? The landing note is important because it's connective tissue to the next phrase that we're going to learn. If we don't play all the way to that landing note, there could be dead space there where it's going to cause problems for us later. All right, now let's do practice chanter. Super ultra simple version of the melody here as well. Just G grace notes and big notes. Ready? And go. E and. Okay. Rhythm and ready. Go. 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2. Okay, same thing. Chanter, go. Cool? Making sense? All right, now, here is a part of the process. I've already been doing it. You might not, you probably can't tell. But I'm not going to move on from this until I'm doing it easily without looking at the music. Does this surprise anyone? Yeah, I'm not going to move on from this until I'm doing it easily without the music. I want to have this memorized before I move on. Let's try practice chanting again. Don't look at the screen. And just see how you do. It might make a couple of honkers, but it'll be interesting to see how you do. When you learn a tune, what does that really mean? It means you can play the tune by memory. That's what learning a tune means, right? So incorporate memory into the process early on. Highly recommended. Okay. Let's see how the first 2 bars go from memory. Ready? And go. E and. Something like that. How'd we do? Yeah, maybe you got it, maybe you don't. Maybe you have a little bit, maybe you have not a lot of it. Okay, cool. The process, okay, continues here. Now, we would have the option, should we be adding in embellishments to the first 2 bars at this stage? The answer is that it's up to you. All right. If you're really anxious about getting all the embellishments in, and that's something that really interests you, maybe you should. Maybe you should add the embellishments into those 2 bars. Okay. I would not. I would want to finish the basic structure of the whole part, possibly even the whole tune, before I worry about the embellishments. That would be my choice. Okay. So we would go on next. Let's take a 2-bar chunk of rhythm for phrase 2. So on my screen, we're going to start right here, okay? You can use your practice chanter or clap. It's totally up to you. Ready? And go. E and a 1, E and a 2, 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 E and a 1. That last rhythm is a little tricky, right? Here, remember the dotted quarter note gets more than one beat. All right, and then this is going to come in on the and of 2. Try that rhythm for me a couple times. Ready, go. 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. That's the rhythm. Again, 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. That's one of those annoying rhythms that you really only see in these slower, less dense marches, like 4/4 marches and 3/4 marches. Let's do the 2-bar rhythm again, starting from the 3rd full bar. Ready, and a go. E and a 1, E and a 2, 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 E and a 1. Okay? Practice chanter melody. Let's try it. Don't worry about the notes too much. Worry about getting something resembling the notes with the correct rhythm. That's priority number 1. Ready, and a go. E and. Okay? This G grace note seems really awkward to me. I'm going to take it out. It seems unnatural going to the low A for some reason. Just taking it out. If you leave it in, you have no chance of learning this tune. No, that's a sarcasm. No, if you leave it in, it's fine. Just for me, I'm taking it out. With my simplified basic structure, I want something that flows, that feels natural, but it's just super basic. That's also why I put this strike in instead of an E grace note. It just feels right to me. But of course, I've got a lot of intuition built up over a long time, which most learners won't have. If you don't have that in there, it's perfectly fine. Okay, rhythm again. Ready, and a go. E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1, E and a 2, E and a 1. That's my rhythm. Here we go with the practice chanter. Ready, go. Cool? Making sense, everybody? Oh, God bless you, Ken. Good sneeze there. Okay, now what are we going to do? Let's put it all together. At this point, I don't know about you, I don't want to go back and play the whole line of the rhythm. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and see if I can get through the whole first line of this tune now with the melody. Ready, and a go. E and. Cool? Making sense? Can everybody see how it's not that hard at the moment? Or it's less hard now than it was before we decided we would get clear on the rhythm, right? It's less hard now because we know when stuff is supposed to happen. By the way, I'm going to move on to a couple other quick things. But notice the next 2 bars. Okay? Do they look familiar? They do. They're exactly the same. So we've already learned 3/4 of the tune. Okay? And then we just have the ending phrase to go. Dee dum bum ba dum bum ba. And you got it. Okay? So let's pretend that we are ready to start adding in some embellishments. What do we do? Hit me in the chat. We've got to get from here, our ultra simple setting, to our completed house. What are we going to do? Option A, everything all at once. Is that how you'd build your house? If you were one person building a house, would you do shingles and crown molding and siding and plumbing and electrical all at the same time? What would you do? You'd probably pick the highest priority item, okay? And you would do that next. Does anybody know, after you framed it, what the next highest priority item is? I'd be curious. Linda, you're right. Yes, we're adding the doubling, maybe the doublings, Linda says. It doesn't matter what you choose. I was asking more about building a house. After you had the frame up, what would you want to do next? Sheeting, says Jane. Okay, cool. That's a good point. In terms of the tune, okay, I don't want to add all the embellishments in at once. That would be very bad. If I'm trying to do all the embellishments in at once, it's not going to go that well. Meanwhile, if I pick one embellishment or one embellishment type, perhaps, then I can focus on that thing and it can go well for me. So what are we going to pick here? To me, the answer is clear. We are going to pick the D throws first, okay? For me, the doublings play a very small role in this melody, but the D throws play quite a big role, and I might add, there's quite a few of them, okay? What we're going to do is, we're going to take our D throws, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to add the D throws in to your simplified setting. Okay, we're not going to read off the top setting yet. We're going to just take, when we see a D throw, okay, we are going to put it in. Dan below. Cool? Making sense? Now, to avoid temptation, I'm getting rid of that top line for us again. Cool. What's cool about this, for those of you who do have knowledge about construction, what's cool about this is now you can see it because you understand. Aha, of course, I have to learn things in the right order. If I try to do everything all at once, it would be a huge mess. Is it possible you could build a house trying to do everything all at once? Yes, it's possible. But what's the likelihood it's going to turn out bad? High, right? It's the same when learning a tune, okay? It's the same. If we tried to do all the embellishments at once, the likelihood it would turn out bad is high. Cool. By the way, did I miss D throw? No, I think it. Yeah. So now, look, we just have 3 things to do, and they're all the same thing. Now, I'm not going to go into how we would play a good D throw today. I'm not going to go into that. Okay? But we want to make sure we're playing it well here at this stage. But the next stage is going to be to integrate some of those into the playing. Okay? Let's try it. For now, because we're out of time, we're just going to try the whole line now with these 3 D throws built in. Ready? 1, E and 2, E and ready, and go, and. Cool, making sense? Everybody catch my mistake? Nancy's, yeah, I caught it. Yeah. So how upset am I about that mistake? Very small amount of upsetness. However, it does inform what my next repetition of this is going to be about. It's going to be about trying to avoid that mistake. Okay? See if I can get it right the second time. Here we go. Ready, and go, and. Cool? Making sense? Okay, I would play that way until I'm just rocking it. And by the way, can you do that without looking at the music? That might be the next step. I like, especially in a tune like this, we got a lot of D throws. I think the next thing I would pick to join us is going to be this high G doubling, which by the way, in some circles is called a high G throw. All right, so we are now gonna just add that high G throw in there. How do you play that? For me, it's G grace note to F, and then up to high G. Hyava, hyava, like that. Okay. One last time through. Let's try it. If you're feeling up for it, see if you can do it without looking. Okay, 1, E and 2, E and try it, and go, E and. Oh, Ken stopped without going to the landing note. Saw that. Okay, is everybody clear on that? Now, one of the objections to what I'm doing here might be something along the lines of, that's cool and all, Andrew, but that takes way too long. I ain't got time for this. Anybody having that reaction? A lot of people here have been in the dojo a while, so you know. That reaction is, there's not a whole lot of there, actually. But does it actually take longer than the other way? It does in the short run, right? It does take a little longer in the short run, in the sense that there's a little bit of setup to do. But my goal is that by the time I'm playing this tune with a few of the embellishments in, I already know the tune. I could take this tune, even without the doublings in yet, and I could play it in any grade 1 band in the world. I've got the important embellishments in, and some of the doublings are still missing, but that's okay. I can play this on a good sounding bagpipe, and what we have here is a really nice tune. Just like you could move into a house with no siding on it yet and no crown molding, it's still a really good house. And we could fix those issues once we're already moved in, right? It's the same idea. Oh, memory glitch. Okay, Ken, fair enough. Okay, now, what's your job? If you're part of the cruise group, rather, okay, your job is to continue on with this process. But I would say, don't rush it, right? If you come on the cruise and you don't have all the doublings in yet, no one's going to throw you overboard. As a matter of fact, they might be thrilled that the rhythm is in great shape, that you already have lots of time playing it up on full pipes, that you have the basics really already memorized, maybe a couple of little rhythm things here or there or whatever. That's way better than showing up with a thing that you rushed and turned into a huge mess. It's better for all involved. One of the things that I always say, but I've forgotten so far to say today, is, why do we learn tunes? And there's 2 reasons people do it. The first reason is not a good reason, in my opinion. The first reason people learn tunes is because the pipe major told me I had to learn some tunes. Or because I want to compete, or I don't know, whatever the reason is, or there's a gig coming up. Okay, that's not a good reason to learn tunes. Or if it is a good reason, it's not nearly as good as the reason I like to learn tunes is, I never want to learn a tune unless I have become a better player in the process of learning that tune. Okay, so there's no point rushing it, cramming everything in, just trying to get it done fast. There's no point. Because if by doing that, you're not making yourself better, and you're possibly making yourself worse if you're ingraining a bunch of bad habits in the process of learning the tune. That's right, John. That's right. If I walk away from Cruise Journey North and I've gained no experience and I'm not a better player as a result, then we missed the point, I think. This was great. He would even consider adding it to the rhythm learning section. Well, we didn't really go a lot into how exactly I would approach the rhythm. It doesn't really matter. Everybody does rhythm a little bit differently. The important thing is that you're clear on exactly when stuff is supposed to happen, right? That's step 2. So step 1 is including the tune in your daily life, immersing yourself in the tune. Step 2 is getting clear on the rhythm. Step 3 is playing the minimally viable setting and getting extremely clear on how the basic melody goes and how you're going to wiggle your fingers to get the basic melody to come out. And then finally, step 4 is a gradual step of integrating those embellishments that are important, right? We want to put the siding on, Want to get the soffits in. We probably want to put some shingling on the roof pretty soon, right? And then inside the house, there's lots of little details. We want the crown molding. We want to put down the tile in the bathroom. We want to hang the curtains probably. We've got some pictures we probably want to hang. Got to pick out the carpet color. I don't know about you, but I'm hiring a guy to put the carpet in. I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. So you know what I'm saying though? It makes perfect sense if you think about constructing a house. So it should make perfect sense in terms of how you're going to construct a tune as well. If you're in Florida, just use a blue tarp over the roof. There you go. I'm not sure. That doesn't make that much sense to me. But there it is. Okay, a quick review of how to learn a tune, folks.